Hold on to your seats because Brat and Judy have just dropped something that's shaking fans to their core. Their upcoming memoir, The Way Love Goes, promised all the heartfelt love lessons and laughter, and it delivered that and more. Fans thought they were just getting a sweet love story, but what they're uncovering is explosive. From stories of jealousy and emotional rawness to how they tackled coming out, marriage and parenthood with unfiltered honesty, readers are calling it a total bombshell. Reactions are flooding social media. I did not see that coming. They got us on every page. Get ready for an emotional ride. Plus, jaw-dropping insights into how to powerhouse women really keep a lasting relationship alive. Want feelings, real talk, and maybe a tear or two? This is your front row seat. Hashtag Brat, hashtag Judy, hashtag The Way Love Goes. When the news first hit, it didn't just appear quietly on a random blog, it exploded across timelines. Hashtags flying, mentions spiking, and fan groups going into overdrive. At Brat and Daryl Booty had been teasing something big for weeks. Dropping cryptic Instagram captions, side-eye emojis, and late-night live sessions that seemed to end just before spilling the good stuff. But on that fateful Monday morning, the mystery was over. The announcement was here. The Way Love Goes wasn't just a memoir. It wasn't just a relationship guide. It was a bombshell love manifesto from two women who had already lived their romance in the public eye, battled criticism, handled parenting milestones, and still managed to keep certain chapters of their love story locked away. Now, they were handing fans the the contents. Unfiltered. In the official press release, the book was described as part memoir, part relationship guide, packed with candid memories, heartfelt insights, and actionable relationship advice. But as soon as fans started skimming the advanced excerpts floating around on TikTok, it was clear this was so much more than just sweet couple anecdotes. The tone was sharp, vulnerable, and brutally honest, especially in the chapters that dealt with jealousy, communication breakdowns, and moments where love felt like it was hanging by a thread. One particularly viral excerpt had @Brat writing in her signature, no-nonsense voice about a fight they once had during the filming of Brat Loves Judy. It wasn't the fact that they argued, every couple argues, it was how she laid it out. She admitted to walking out mid-conversation, to icing Judy for hours, and to rereading old text messages just to get mad all over again. And then, in the very next paragraph, she flipped it, detailing exactly how they broke the cycle, faced the issue, and found common ground. It was messy. It was human. It was real. Fans weren't ready for that level of openness from a couple who, until now, seemed to have an almost fairy tale sheen. The reaction on X, formerly Twitter, was instant. Within hours of the news breaking, hashtag The Way Love Goes was trending alongside hashtag Brat and hashtag Judy. One fan tweeted, "I thought I knew their story. I was wrong. This book is wild." Another wrote, "They're telling us this stuff no couple usually admits. Respect." Instagram reels started popping up with people reading lines aloud, covering their mouths, and pausing mid-sentence with a wait. What? Look before hitting replay. TikTokers began dissecting the emotional cues in Daryl Booty's writing, noting how her New Orleans warmth sometimes clashed tan, sometimes perfectly harmonized with Brat's Chicago bluntness. The memoir wasn't even out yet, but the pre-order links were already seeing spikes. Barnes & Noble and Amazon both reported that The Way Love Goes hit their most wished for list within 48 hours of the announcement. Fans weren't just curious, they were hungry. But here's what made this drop different from your average celebrity tell-all. It wasn't gossip for gossip's sake. Sure, there were personal revelations that made people sit up, but every single story was followed by an insight how they handled it, what they learned, and why they believe it made their love stronger. They weren't just bearing their scars. They were showing how they healed them. And if anyone thought Brat would soften her style for print, think again. Her chapters are pure brat sharp, witty, unafraid to call herself out, and peppered with the kind of slang her fans know and love. Judy's sections, on the other hand, feel like sitting down with a wise friend who's willing to pour you a cup of tea and tell you the truth, even if it stings. Together, the two voices create a rhythm, push and pull, grit and grace that mirrors the very relationship they're writing about. One of the most talked about teasers came from a passage where Judy admits she almost didn't go through with a major life decision they'd made together. The decision itself, fans are still speculating. Was it related to their IVF journey? Their marriage date? A career move? The book promises answers, but the way that excerpt cuts off in the preview, it's intentional. It's marketing genius. And it's why fans are flooding comment sections with demands for early copies. The couple's decision to narrate. The audiobook themselves is another win. The press kit confirmed that both at Brat and at Judy will voice their respective chapters, meaning listeners will literally hear the emotion, the pauses, and the laughs, exactly as they felt them in real life. Audiobook pre-orders surged as soon as that detail dropped. Critics and bloggers have already started weighing in, calling the memoir a masterclass in balancing public vulnerability with private dignity. Entertainment Weekly's preview piece praised the structure, noting how each chapter alternates perspectives without ever feeling repetitive. Instead, it feels like the reader is being invited into an intimate, ongoing conversation, one where both participants are equally committed to being heard. But not all reactions have been positive. Some online commentators, especially those who've long followed the couple's reality TV appearances, accused the book of being calculated, suggesting that some stories might have been dramatized for sales. Fans pushed back hard on this, defending at Brat and at Judy as a couple who have always embraced transparency, even when it meant inviting criticism. The announcement also reignited conversations about representation. Here were two openly queer Black women, both successful in their own right. Not just surviving, but thriving, and doing it in a way that celebrates their love without sanitizing it for mainstream comfort. In a publishing world still catching up to diverse love stories, The Way Love Goes feels like a milestone. And yet, for all its cultural significance, the marketing team clearly knows how to keep things spicy. The promotional rollout has been pure social media theater. Joint posts with matching captions, sly winks in Instagram stories, reposting fan reactions with just the side-eye emoji, and using trending audio clips to hint at that chapter, without ever saying what that is. By the time the first wave of pre-order confirmations went out, it was clear this wasn't going to be a quiet release. This was an event, a moment. A collision of celebrity, love, truth, and just enough mystery to keep fans counting the days until February 3rd, 2026. The real question now? Which revelation will cause the next wave of online chaos? Okay? Because if part one of this saga, just the announcement, could generate this much buzz, okay? Imagine what's coming once fans have the full book in their hands. Brat. Hashtag The Way Love Goes. Hashtag memoir. Hashtag relationship goals. Hashtag couple goals. Hashtag Brat loves Judy. Hashtag book TOK. Hashtag book Graham. When advanced, readers began sharing snippets from The Way Love Goes. The internet wasn't ready. Sure, people expected funny behind the scenes stories from at Brat's legendary rap career or at Judy's beauty empire hustle. But no one anticipated the moment in Chapter 7 that would have fans literally gasping out loud. The chapter starts innocently enough to Brat narrating a typical day during their early relationship. She's in the studio, Judy's managing Kaleidoscope hair products meetings, and they're texting between breaks. But as Brat describes the day, the tone shifts. She writes, "I walked into the house and I knew before she spoke that something had changed." That line alone became a viral quote graphic on Instagram within 24 hours. Fans screenshot it, slapped it on aesthetic backgrounds, and tagged it hashtag The Way Love Goes. But what came after in the book was what had everyone's jaws on the floor. Brat reveals that Judy, normally her rock, had sat her down and admitted something that could have derailed their entire relationship. It wasn't infidelity, it wasn't a career move. It was, in Brat's own words, a truth so personal, it rewrote the way I saw us. In the excerpt floating around, the specifics are blurred deliberately. The publishing team knew that. Giving away exactly what Judy confessed would spoil one of the book's most emotional payoffs. Still, the impact was undeniable. Fans on TikTok began spinning theories. Was it connected to the IVF process and their journey to parenthood? Did it involve an unspoken fear about being in the public eye as a couple? Could it be about a moment when Judy almost walked away? The fact that no one could agree only made the hype stronger. At Daryl Buddy's section in that same chapter is equally powerful. She counters Brat's account not in a combative way, but with the softness and nuance of someone revisiting a deeply vulnerable moment. She writes about how she weighed the risk of being fully honest versus the risk of hiding something that might grow into resentment. Her words are slow, deliberate, almost hesitant, like she's reliving that emotional tightrope walk in real time. What makes this chapter so magnetic is that you're not just reading a reveal. You're reading two perspectives of the same conversation, separated by a page break. Brat's version is filled with gut-level reactions, raw emotion, and flashes of temper. Judy's version reads like an open-handed offering and attempt to explain, not excuse. It's the literary equivalent of watching two confessionals in a reality show episode. But with the depth and intimacy only the written word can bring. Social media went into overdrive. On X, one reader posted, "I had to close the book and take a walk. I felt that in my chest." At Brat and at Daryl Buddy weren't playing with this chapter. On YouTube, reaction videos started popping up, booktubers recording themselves as they hit chapter 7, pausing to shout, "What?" before pacing their rooms. One even held the book up to the camera, pointing at a paragraph and saying, "This right here is why I'll never settle for surface-level love." Entertainment blogs capitalized on the frenzy. Headlines read, Brat and Judy's memoir packs a plot twist worthy of a TV finale. The chapter that broke the internet. Fans are divided over this moment in the way. Love goes, but beyond the drama, there's something almost revolutionary about how Brat and Judy handle the reveal. They don't tie it up neatly with a "we hugged and everything was fine" moment. Instead, they detail the days that followed the silence, the self-reflection, the awkward attempts at reconnection. Brat admits to replaying the conversation in her head for weeks. Judy admits to second-guessing her decision to share. It's not just vulnerability. It's the refusal to sanitize it for easy consumption. And here's where fans really lost it. Toward the end of the chapter, there's a single line from Brat that became an instant TikTok soundbite. She writes, "Love didn't save us, that day honesty did." That sentence hit like a sledgehammer. People were quoting it in captions, making it their phone wallpapers, even printing it on canvas art for their bedrooms. By now, #TheWayLoveGoes wasn't just a trending hashtag, was practically its own subculture online. Couples were using the book as a discussion starter, diming each other passages, and even hosting joint live stream readings. One popular podcast devoted an entire episode to the gasp heard around the internet, dissecting the emotional beats of the chapter and what they reveal about the couple's dynamic. The publishing team leaned into the frenzy. They released a teaser clip from the audiobook Just Brat, reading that infamous first line, "I walked into the house, and I knew before she spoke that something had changed," followed by a perfectly timed pause. No further context, just a fade out and the release date. February 3rd, 2026. Pre-orders spiked again. Of course, with hype comes backlash. Some critics accused the couple of being intentionally manipulative, dangling the specifics of the reveal to boost sales. But loyal fans clapped back, pointing out that the emotional truth of the chapter isn't in the what, it's in the how. Whether or not you know the exact detail, you feel the weight of the moment through their words. That, perhaps, is why the chapter works so well. It's not just about one confession. It's about what happens when two people committed to building a life together hit a wall they didn't see coming and decide to climb it instead of walk away. By the time the chapter closes, you're left with more questions than answers, but in a way that keeps you invested. You want to know how they rebuilt after that moment? You want to see if the trust they talk about in later chapters is as unshakable as they claim. And maybe that's the genius of The Way Love Goes. It doesn't just tell you their love story, invites you to measure it against your own. So when fans say they gasped, they don't just mean at the shock value, they mean at the recognition. At the reminder that even the strongest couples have those days when love feels fragile.
Yeah.
And that surviving those days takes more than flowers. An apology still. That leaves one burning question. If this was the gasp-worthy moment, what in the world could top it? Hashtag Brat, hashtag Judy, hashtag The Way Love Goes, hashtag Memoir, hashtag Relationship Goals, hashtag Couple Goals, hashtag Brat Loves Judy, hashtag Brat Loves Judy, hashtag Book Dram, hashtag Love and Honesty. The memoir's third act doesn't just rattle the bones of hip-hop history, it digs into the marrow. Brat and Daryl Beauty take the reader into a space no cameras have ever reached. It's the green rooms before the shows, the phone calls that end in slammed doors, the silences that speak louder than any fight. This is where they confront the cost of laying bare their truth. Fame, they reveal, is a magnifying glass, and when you're under it, even the smallest imperfections become headline news. We knew people would talk, Judy writes, just didn't realize how much they dissect every line like it was a confession. Hashtag Dobrat's fans thought they knew everything after decades of music and interviews. They were wrong. The memoir uncovers stories from her early career that she never dared to share before. The label politics, the unspoken pressure to keep her sexuality under wraps, the quiet battles with executives who thought the real Brat would be too much for the public to handle. That, and then there's the part that fans can't stop tweeting about. The chapter where it's Sosa Brat and Judy reveal the breakdown of trust during one of their most crucial career moments. It's not just about business. It's about what happens when love and ambition collide head-on. You can love someone and still feel betrayed by them. Brat writes, and you can be right and wrong at the same time. That line has become one of the most quoted passages online. Reposted across hashtag Twitter, hashtag Instagram, and even dissected in TikTok reaction videos. The couple talks openly about therapy, not as a last resort, but as a lifeline. They share how having a neutral space to unpack resentment kept them from becoming another Hollywood casualty. Fans are divided. Some praise their honesty, calling it a roadmap for healthier relationships. In the spotlight. Others accuse them of using pain as promotion then. The Bombshell, a revelation about a business partner who allegedly tried to sabotage one of Judy's major ventures during the height of her pregnancy news. Without naming names, the memoir hints at betrayal from someone in their inner circle, someone who smiled in every photo, but was quietly working to cut them out of deals. The speculation online is wild. Hashtags like hashtag Who is the Snake and hashtag Brat Judy Betrayal start trending. Meanwhile, Judy's voice in the book remains unapologetic. She addresses critics directly. If telling the truth about my life makes you uncomfortable, that says more about you than me. It's a clapback in print and fans eat it up. At Kaleidoscope Hair Products even posts a quote from the memoir in their Instagram stories, sparking thousands of comments debating who the shade was aimed at. The memoir also pulls no punches about family tensions. Brat shares moments when her relatives questioned her choices, from career moves to her decision to start a family later in life. The tension between personal happiness and cultural expectations is palpable in her words. Sometimes, she writes, the people who love you most are the ones who will unknowingly hold you back. But just when the tone threatens to sink into bitterness, the couple pivots to hope. They describe a trip they took unplanned, last minute, to escape the noise. It's just them. No assistants, no cameras, no makeup teams. It becomes a turning point, a reminder that beneath the headlines, they are just two people trying to build a life together. Fans online latch onto this chapter as proof that the couple's bond is real. Even in chaos, they find a way back to each other. The hashtag #BratLove hashtag floods timelines with readers sharing their own stories of reconciliation. But the peace doesn't last long in the memoir's narrative. As the pages turn, new challenges emerge, bigger, messier, and more public. The reader can sense it. The storm isn't over. And Brat and Judy, they're not done telling their truth, no matter the cost. In a world where celebrities curate perfect Instagram feeds, this memoir feels raw, messy, and dangerously real. Which begs the question, in part 4, will they finally name names? Are some secrets still too explosive to print? Hashtag #Brat, hashtag #BBJudy, hashtag memoir drama, hashtag celebrity confessions, hashtag hip hop history at Sosa Brat, at Daryl Booty, at Kaleidoscope Hair Products, Sif. Part 3 felt like the explosion. Part 4 is the seismic aftershock, the one that shakes everything left standing. The moment hashtag #DABrat and at BBJUDY's memoir hit shelves, the entertainment industry didn't just read it, they dissected it. Every chapter became a headline. Every quote turned into a trending topic. And the aftershocks, they hit harder than anyone expected. The fan wars begin. Social media turned into a battlefield overnight. On one side, hashtag Team #Brat, fans who applauded her courage, saying her voice had been silenced for too long. They flooded at Sosa Brat's single quotes as comments with fire emojis, crowns, and words of love. On the other, hashtag Team Judy, who rallied behind at Daryl Beauty, claiming that the memoir unfairly portrayed her family dynamics and business struggles. The hashtags clashed daily. Hashtag Brat tells all versus hashtag Judy deserves better. A virtual tug-of-war for public opinion. Hollywood's reaction, it didn't take long. For Hollywood power players to start calling, rumors started circulating that at Netflix and at Prime Video were in a bidding war for the memoir's adaptation rights. Could this turn into a streaming docuseries? Or maybe even a scripted drama where hashtag #Brat and at BBJUDY play themselves? Fans immediately started fan casting actors for a fictional version with names like Taraji P. Henson and Kik Palmer floating around. But the glitz and glamour came with shadows. Certain old acquaintances of Brat began publicly disputing her claims, threatening to release receipts of their own. The memoir had reawakened old feuds that had been dormant for decades. And when Lisa Ray McCoy, Brat's half-sister, was asked about the book during a red carpet interview, her response was telling. Let's just say, truth is a funny thing. The business backlash beyond family drama, the memoir also shook the beauty industry. At BBJUDY's Kaleidoscope Hair Products had always been her pride and joy. But some of the revelations about behind-the-scenes struggles made investors uneasy. Industry blogs began speculating whether certain partnerships would pull out. At the same time, other brands doubled down, showing loyalty and even using the controversy as marketing. If Judy can survive this storm, she can survive anything. One at Forbes contributor wrote, "Personal lives under a microscope." Every paparazzi photo now came with its own conspiracy theory. Was Brat avoiding events to let things cool down? Or was she working on a follow-up project? Was Judy's sudden trip to Atlanta for business meetings really about damage control? Even minor actions and unfollow. A deleted Instagram story became fuel for gossip blogs, like at The Shade Room and at BOSSIP Official. The scrutiny even extended to their inner circle. Friends of the couple were approached by reporters offering payment for exclusive behind-the-scenes info. Some refused outright, Others? Well, the leaks were already starting to drip. The most explosive revelation yet, just when fans thought the memoir had revealed everything. Brat hinted in a live interview that an entire chapter had been removed at the last minute. A chapter her legal team advised her not to publish. She didn't say what it contained, but the internet immediately ran wild with speculation. Some believed it involved a famous rapper from the 90s. Others swore it tied into an unresolved industry scandal. The hashtag missing chapter started trending, with fans creating TikTok videos theorizing what it could contain. Memes flooded Twitter. Few opportunistic sources even claimed to have read it, but without proof, their claims were quickly dismissed as clout chasing the unlikely allies. One of the strangest twists. Celebrities who had never publicly spoken about Brat or Judy suddenly came forward in support. Missy Elliott tweeted, "Real stories take real bravery to tell. Respect." Meanwhile, Nisa Nash posted a photo with the couple, captioning it, "Strong enough to weather any storm." This unexpected wave of celebrity backing didn't erase the controversy, but it did start shifting the narrative. The focus began moving. From did they go too far? To how do we define truth in a relationship? What comes next? By the time the first month of sales figures rolled in, smashing expectations and landing at #1 on the New York in Wolf Times bestseller list, it was clear this memoir had done more than just spill tea. It had rewritten the rulebook for celebrity storytelling. Fans now wonder, will there be a part 2? Will that missing chapter ever be published? Or will the backlash force the couple to retreat from the spotlight for good? For Brat and Judy, the only certainty is that the spotlight isn't leaving them anytime soon. And as one Instagram comment put it perfectly, this book wasn't just pages, it was a grenade. #Dobrat. #Bombshell Memoir. @Sosabrat. @Daryl Booty. #Celebrity. #Celebrity Drama. #Entertainment News. #Kaleidoscope Hair Products. #Hip Hop History. #The Shade Room. #BOSSIP. #Truth and Consequences. #Team DA. Brat. #Team Judy. #Celebrity Memoir. #Missing Chapter. #Hollywood Drama Nand. There you have it, the unfiltered, jaw-dropping revelations from Brat and Judy's explosive memoir. Every page drips with raw truth, unapologetic confessions, and the kind of behind-the-scenes tea that changes the way you see your favorite stars forever. But this story isn't just about scandal. It's about survival, reinvention, and the courage to tell your truth even when the world isn't ready for it. If you think this was shocking, just wait. There's still more to come. And you know we'll be here to break it all down for you first. So smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and join our community of insiders who never miss a drop. Because when it comes to celebrity secrets, we don't just spill tea. We pour the whole pot. #Dobrat. #BBJudy. #Memoir Shock. @Dobrat. @BBJUDY.